Hey, what's going on, good people? Eric Taylor, Bigeastrology. I am back. You voted with another celebrity birth chart reading, and I'm talking about the Prince of Soul and R&B, Mr. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye, born in 1939. Okay, was an Aries the Ram. Died a day before his 45th birthday. This was a musical legend and icon who was truly a troubled man and was seeking sexual healing and asked deep questions like, what's going on? Married twice to Anna and Janice. Adopted his first son, Marvin Gaye III, and he was Marvin Gaye Jr., right? Born to his mother and father, Marvin Gaye Sr. in Alberta. He married Janice after he got the divorce from Anna, but he had Nona and Frankie Gaye with Janice. He went through it, and at the end it was tragic because his father shot him 3 times and killed him. And the gun that Marvin bought for his father. But Marvin was kind of spiritually dead before then. You know, cocaine use, the 70s, then went to Europe, and we're gonna break it down on the chart, but he just was brilliant. If you don't know his music, please go listen to it. He won 3 Grammys, should have won way more. Didn't win his first Grammy until he was in his 40s, I think was at 41, for Sexual Healing. And it's hard to believe that him and Tammy Terrell didn't win. And his heart was broken when Tammy Terrell died. She had a brain tumor. And doing the research for this and, living it and seeing and knowing about Marvin and his music. Because in my home, we played Marvin Gaye growing up. My mother loved him. And nobody sang the national anthem like Marvin did at the NBA All-Star game in Los Angeles. He tore it down. So, I'm honored to do Mr. Marvin Gaye Jr.'s natal birth chart reading. Let's go inside and break it down. And when he came out first, doing some jazz stuff like Frank Sinatra, and then he did like a Stubborn Man, his first like R&B joint to go, kind of just argue with Berry Gordy, because they were constantly going back and forth. Even dated Berry Gordy's sister when he was 21, dated a 36-year-old woman. That was Marvin Gaye, y'all. Something else than just a smooth criminal. I mean, Marvin was a bad brother. All right, Biggie Astrology. Let's check out the chart. Cancer rising, Virgo Moon, Aries Sun in the 10th house, where it's exalted. That's Mr. Marvin Gaye. Peace. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Eric Taylor, Big E Astrology, back. Doing a legend. Another celebrity birth chart for Mr. Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Soul music. Woo! We're talking about what's going on, a troubled man, heard it through the grapevine, sexual healing. I mean, it just goes on and on. Ain't no mountain high enough, all I need. I mean, with Tammy Terrell. But let's get into it. April 2nd, 1939, Washington, D.C. Marvin Gaye, born to Alberta and Marvin Gaye Sr. He had a brother and a sister, 2 siblings, had 3 kids, adopted Marvin Gaye III with his first wife, Anna, and then with his second wife, Janice Hunter, had Nona and Frankie Gaye. Okay. So he's the Cancer rising. All right. He's got that Chiron wound. And, early on in life, the first house, the chart ruler is the moon, since it's Cancer, the crab. And the first house is your physical appearance, your outer mask, your identity, vitality. It's the 3-part aspect of your personality, sun, moon, and rising. which also creates the harmonic energy for your part of fortune. So it lights up his third house, right? The local community in DC and church and the moon. He had the Virgo moon, right? And you can tell that he was very close to his mother. The third house, the moon is in its planetary joy, and it's the adult relationship with your mom, right? 26 years old and 38. Remember, like I always tell you, the first house, 0, 12, 24, 36, 48 years old, 60, 72, 84, 96, 108, 120. Now, of course, for Marvin, he only made it to 44, died or was murdered by his father a day before his 45th birthday. So we only see this as 36. And then annual perfection, when he was killed, big theme here for his life, the ninth house, your father's teachings, and the father killed him. We'll get back to that. So having the Chiron moon and Pluto, this kind of describes Marvin to a T. I mean, Marvin was smooth. The ladies loved him. He was awkward, couldn't dance, but loved to sing and was a musical genius. Years later, as we get to it, but, once he got his own studio, Barry Gordy got that for him, he would just use all types of instruments and would do all the background vocals himself, from falsetto to alto, everything, because that's how talented he was, and this Pluto, right, it makes you extremely magnetic, which Marvin was. But at the same time, it's like going through all these transformations in your life, right? Singing in the church growing up, Pentecostal. His father was a traveling minister, but also a cross-dresser. This Chiron moon comes from the father, seeing his father like that, but the father being mentally, emotionally, and verbally abusive to the mother, but also to the kids. His father was whooping booty, spanking hard, and Marvin would get the brunt of it, which you can see, even though it's empty, this Libra fourth house. A lot of Cancer risings, as you guys will know, and I've done many charts of Cancer risings, the Libra fourth house, it's where you kind of become the scapegoat amongst the children in the family. Fourth house, nurturing, caring, the mother, but it's the childhood home, the conveniences, and it's seeking balance, right? So having this Libra here, he was the one who was getting blamed. He was the one getting, ostracized and spanked, and he sought the comfort and the compassion from his mother. Marvin was very, very attached to his mother. And that's what brought him back home towards the end when he was in Europe and Belgium, when he wrote Sexual Healing and was getting his life back together. It was his mom being sick, the Neptune conjunction, the moon, that brought him back home to his local community. And ironically, the gun, he bought the gun, right? The Aries Sun, he brought the gun for his father that his father used to kill him. So this Pluto was definitely a very powerful, thing, and led to just a lot for him. And it's almost like he was here for a time period to be this musical angel for the collective, because he really was a troubled man, and I think he was so fighting to have that balance of the masculinity that was going against how he saw his father with the cross-dressing, to be this very sexual man. But then the spiritual demons, the drugs, always was smoking weed, but then in the 70s got involved with the cocaine, and that kind of destroyed him, and the womanizing and the cheating, okay? So, but he was very nurturing and caring, right? The Cancer Ascendant. And even through his music, cared about America, right? And that's why he did What's Going On. And he even told Smokey Robinson, God's writing this album for me, Smokey. And Smokey was like, yeah, I believe you, brother, because it's one of the greatest albums of all time, and the song, What's Going On, But I think, his father used to not only beat him bad, but would make him strip down naked and beat him. Okay, so that's what you're seeing here with this Pluto, Chiron, and the ascendant. The second house, the toddler, food, speech, survival, your values. Well, the Leo, the father, was the king. Follow the values. He was the authority, but he would earn money through entertainment, right? The second house is material items, money, but how you earn money, right? Through entertainment. But it never pleased his father because his father felt like, you're selling out your soul, for this music industry and all the hanger-oners. And that's what brought him down at the end with his father killing him because he couldn't take it anymore, When you get to this third house, local community, right? Elementary school, the Neptune, the moon, right? With the father beating him, he was very much about humanity. And the moon in the third house, and even the Virgo moon, the earth moons are very creative with the music. He was very stubborn, even when we'll get to it, when he joined Motown, he wanted to do things his way. And he was musically a genius. Moon conjunct Neptune. You really see that and experience that from him. He was on a whole nother level. And, just his ability of how he was able to write music and even in the Motown machine, try to find his own way, his own lane for his creativity. Okay. And having the Neptune in the third house, it was almost like there was literally like a guardian angel on him or with him. He was so spiritual, but so compassionate and had this humanity. And he really was troubled because I think deep down inside, he did want to honor God, but also loved the music and loved, he kind of loved the drugs and the sex and the women, but there was this nurturing, caring for the people. Marvin, the Virgo moon, being of service to the collective. Even when you think about his voice, it was very angelic, and it's actually kind of funny that he couldn't dance because, it really adds to, and you could see it kind of in his chart and stuff like that. But this is powerful, the Neptune in the third house. This would let you even know that he sung in the choir and stuff in church, but he started doing like the doo-wop music, and he really wanted to do things his way, He always went against his father's way of doing things with the music and stuff like that. So when you look at the fourth house with the Libra, in the home, remember I told you, seeking the balance. Things were not always peaceful and harmonious, and I think that was very hard and it made him so close to the mother. But his mother was his refuge, right? The peacekeeper. But, she couldn't always keep the peace. And I could only imagine with the father being the way he was, the traveling minister in a small church and Pentecostal church, he was very much the disciplinarian. But, it really, squaring this fourth house with the Pluto, he really dealt with a lot at home. So when you get to high school and college years, the fifth house, the North Node, right, in this 8th degree, and it's the fixed water sign. So the South Node is in Taurus. So he was coming from this sensual, sexual healing energy of the groups, hopes, dreams, and wishes, which he reached at a young age, right? Because remember the South Node, K2, you recognize it after age 30, but it doesn't mature to 42, 48 in terms of going to the North Node. So he was very much in this Taurus South Node, right? When he was doing his music career, right? Even think about if this is age 24, right? At age 22, he was already doing his music because his first song was coming out here, Aries Midheaven Career. The stubborn man, or whatever, I forgot the name of the title of the song. But that was that Aries. He was, achieving that and being assertive and aggressive but he went to Motown right here after the military, the Air Force, we'll get to that, but he went to Motown and got with them around age 20. So foreign lands and the Pisces, the music, entertainment. So back to this fifth house though, high school, college years, Scorpio, he was definitely trying to, find his way. And his way was about really speaking his truth. And he was a bit of a rebel and wanted to do things his way and was always very much about the physical body, the sex, right? Scorpio, fifth house. And this lets you know, I bet you Marvin, he got into some occult knowledge, He was someone that was very unique. Very spiritual, very, power control, and was definitely the rebel, wanted to do things the way he wanted to do it. Right. So here, remember the first house is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. He joined the Air Force, right? He dropped out of high school, joined the Air Force, or maybe right after high school. Sagittarius, sixth house, work, service, daily routine, health, sickness, illness. His mother's sibling, Sagittarius, right? And he traveled to the Air Force. He was discharged. Okay. He got the boot out of the Air Force, honorably discharged or something. And then that's when he decided to take his singing and the doo-wop and stuff like that to, go to Motown. I forgot how he met Barry Gordy and wound up going to Motown, but that happened 18, 19 at 20, foreign lands. Okay. But we're going to go back to the seventh house, but it just, it's beautiful how the chart lines up. 20 years old, it's the ninth house. And that's where he, had a lot of things here. He also had the hit with Tammy Terrell here years later. So we'll get back to that. 66. So what we have here is the seventh house, right? So opposing the Pluto, we're seeing Capricorn, and Marvin, what's really deep, having the Mars and Capricorn in the part of fortune. Okay. He was definitely someone who was about his business. Okay. Part of fortune and Mars, this is where you see he initiated and was assertive in achieving his fame. The seventh house is contracts, negotiations. Yes, he was the Motown employee until he left with sexual healing for CBS Columbia Records. But he was the one that wanted to stand out alone and be the individual at Motown. Mars and Capricorn, he was about achieving. Mars and Capricorn is the soldier and warrior, but like Mars initiates in Aries, and Capricorn, it's climbing the ladder of success, reaching your goals and dreams. It's the soldier completing the mission. Part of fortune is spiritual and financial blessings, usually around the age of 30. Well, he started getting them a lot earlier than that. Okay. Now, 69, 30 years old, he was doing things, and this was before he did What's Going On in 71. But he was definitely having success. Okay. Mars and part of fortune in Capricorn really speaks to that achievement, and it's opposing the first house. And it's kind of, this Mars is in a square to the sun. Okay. So that shows you the fighting. Now it's not an exact square, but shows you the fighting, the arguments, the warring with the father, and the father beating him. not being impressed by him making the musical success. He came home with $1 million on the bed and was like, so what do you think about this, Dad? And Dad was like, what good is it if you get the world if you lose your soul? He's giving him the Bible scriptures. So, it was heavy because he was very attached to his family. He wanted that love and achievement and that appreciation from both his parents. And, it's so sad. I mean, he was so talented, so gifted, so brilliant when you think about the songs and the hits. Now, after the marriage, now this shows you, it wasn't like his marriage with Anna was an open marriage. And I'm not sure if Anna's, I couldn't find her birthday. But, even when he was married to Anna, he started cheating and having affairs, but he thought she was cheating, and that's what he was, doing. I heard it through the grapevine and stuff like that, which is his greatest selling song on Motown. It was the biggest song on Motown. Okay. So you've got Juno here. This is not the true Black Moon Lilith, so we don't look at the mean position, but Juno and Aquarius, right? Power, control, sex, manipulation, intimacy. Marvin was into some open stuff, getting into the secrets of society, getting into the drugs. We don't know what was going on with the music career, things like that. But in the father's eyes, right, he was selling out his soul and stuff like that. Marvin Gaye was always, in a way, seeking the freedom and liberation. There was rumors. I didn't see anything or heard anything that was true that he was bisexual. I don't know if that's the case. I think if anything, he was just hypersexual in terms of trying to prove how masculine he was because of the Chiron moon and his father beating him when he's naked and seeing his father as a cross-dresser and a pastor, right? That's really confusing for a child, right? I mean, it's like that Cancer wound, it really speaks to a lot of different things there, growing up for him. But, when you get to this 9th house, you're seeing the Pisces. This is a very powerful house for him, right? Because even at 24, right, 30, 31, 32, at 32 years old is when he did, I think that's when he did the either Grapevine or because 72. No, that's when he did, What's Going On. Okay. And so that was like his critically acclaimed best album, and the album and the song that kind of spoke about America, right? After King and civil rights and Vietnam War. When he did that and he said to Smokey, God was writing this album for him, this was it. Even though I heard it through a grapevine was his biggest bestseller, for Motown, What's Going On is what is considered to be one of the greatest albums ever. And I mean, if you don't know what's going on, you better get it and listen to it. Go sit down on YouTube and just sit and chill, because Marvin was, amazing. You have the Venus, right? You have the Vesta, and you have the Jupiter in the 9th house of what? Beliefs, philosophy, wisdom, foreign lands, pilgrimage, your father's teachings, masters, PhD, guru, shaman, publishing. Okay? And, having this Lilith here, the true Black Moon Lilith, this is all about him being that rebel. Nobody saw what's going on coming, and stuff like that. This is after, let me get back, right? We wrap around 1966 when he does the duet. Let's see, 26, 27 years old. So 24, 25, 26, 27. Yeah, he did. Now remember, he did duets with Kim Weston and Mary Wilson first, but they weren't as big hits as when he did You're All I Need and Ain't No Mountain High Enough with Tammy Terrell. And that was back here in the Libra 4th house, right? He felt peace and harmony with her. You would think they were sleeping together, but no, he loved her like a sister. And they were just, it was like musical bliss, harmony, and peace. It was magical. But what happened? She passed out on stage. This is what's deep, you guys. It was in the next 67 and died of a brain tumor, Scorpio, right? But it was opposing what? Tammy Terrell, April 29th, was a Taurus. Look at this, Uranus. Sudden event, right? To a group suddenly ended in music, Taurus singing. That destroyed him, okay? I think that really, I'm not saying that he wasn't doing drugs before, but he was just smoking weed. Smoking, other people said in interviews that, the cocaine started more mid to late 70s, and after losing Tammy Terrell, he was devastated. And then that's when he did What's Going On years later and, and other things. And that's also when he started to, he was cheating on Anna and got with Janice. Okay. And so he got with Janice, and see, Pisces, Venus, and Pisces, Jupiter, he was definitely creative in his imagination and the compassion and empathy, but he was the fish going in two different directions. He was half in the church and then half in the world. He was half not understanding the whole thing, but his father and his sexuality, and then half trying to be the macho man and over-sexual and the ladies' man. He really was a troubled man. I mean, listen to some of his songs and lyrics, and then you have to laugh when he did, when he finally was getting a divorce from Anna, and then he married Janice and had Frankie and Nona Gaye with her. She was only 16 when they met. And she said in an interview, their first date and first kiss, he kissed her so lovingly and tenderly on the forehead, But that's this is what you have to understand. Venus in Pisces is exalted. Jupiter is at home in Pisces and in Sagittarius. But in Pisces, right? No, it's not the Pentecostal church. So he was going against his father. Marvin was more spiritual, right? That's what you're seeing here with his wisdom, beliefs, and philosophies as he traveled the world singing and had success all over the world, not just in Motown, Detroit, but that's where he got started, in foreign lands in the ninth house. I mean, he was brilliant sharing his musical and artistic gifts. And the Vesta, it's sort of like a twin flame. I wonder, I didn't get to check this out, and maybe somebody could comment in the comments or whatever, but I wonder if Janice had some Pisces energy or placements. But Venus and Pisces, his love language was that deep, soulful, spiritual connection love. Okay. And that's what he wanted in his wife. And that's the second wife. So, the first marriage, arguing, fighting, some cheating, Mars, Capricorn, and you can see that with the part of fortune. But then he had no money. He was trying to declare bankruptcy. So they made a deal with the lawyer. So he recorded For You, My Dear, or My Dear Anna or something, did the album. And on the song, he's like saying, Anna, if you love me, why would you call the police on me and this and that and all that. It was deep. Like he was like, he recorded the album and she would get the proceeds from it to give to her for the divorce settlement. Because he went through a lot of money. Marvin Gaye had a lot of hanger-oners, fake friends, right? Uranus, Taurus, people suddenly taking his money, suddenly taking advantage of him. You know what I mean? This is like, having issues with the friends and social networks because they were bringing him down with the drugs and the alcohol. This right here, this Jupiter is so much because Jupiter is biology, finance with the preacher teacher. He was here teaching us through his music, his musical gifts, his poetry. I mean, he could sing anything. I remember they said Barry Gordy and Smokey were like, Marvin could sing anything, any style, any way. But, it's funny, the first album, he started off and he was like trying to be a crooner and trying to do more like jazz. But, the white audience and the black audience for Motown folks, they weren't into that. So then that's when he started to do more of the traditional R&B, and the first one was like this a stubborn man or a stubborn song or something, that he did. And but then he started to get more of the big hits, and then that's when he got his own studio from Barry Gordy and started doing more and more stuff, and even What's Going On. This 10th house, this Aries in the midheaven, and okay, so when it's in Mercury too, it was very impulsive, assertive, initiating. The sun is also the father, but it's him. When you have the sun in the 10th house, you're going to face obstacles, but you will achieve success in your career. And he had to be solo. He wasn't in the Smokey Robinson and the style. What got his group's name? The Miracles, Smokey and the Miracles, the Temptations, Diana Ross, the Supremes. No, it was Marvin Gaye. Now I told you that Libra opposing this, he found that harmony and balance with Tammy Terrell, and then was devastated when she got the tumor. I mean, gosh, they just sounded so good together. But you see here, look at that, the Saturn, the Pallas Athena, how you can resolve problems and dilemmas, and it shows issues with the father, right? In Aries. Now he was born, he had the Eros in Pisces too. So there was definitely even some confusion in his sexual life. Aries was early on here, 4 degrees. It's not won't go to Taurus till 2044. But he created discord. Like when he was killed by his father, which is in the 9th house, and it was Aries season, the day before his birthday, right? Mercury, the hands, he beat his father up, the disciplinarian, the Saturn here. So when you see the Saturn and the Sun in the 10th house in Aries, now this is literally, the Saturn in Aries can cause migraine headaches, arthritis, bone. Marvin he was a troubled man at this time. When he lost everything and left, he went to Hawaii in 79. From 79, when he got divorced, he left and went to Hawaii from 77 to 79. Moon, Neptune. What's Neptune? Overseas, and he went to Hawaii for 2 years. And then after that, he went to Belgium from 79. And then he came back in 82 with sexual healing. He may have been better off just staying in Europe, in Belgium. He was first in England and then in Belgium. And, but when he wrote Sexual Healing and came back, that's when he won his Grammys. And he got the Lifetime Achievement Award too. So he won 3 Grammys and I think 1 American Music Award. But it's hard to believe that he didn't win back in the days for What's Going On, Troubled Man, or Heard It Through the Grapevine, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, All I Need, like all these other joints, he won for Sexual Healing. So it shows you how fugazi the Grammys are, that they didn't honor him. But they weren't honoring black artists the way they should have, even though Motown was respected. Once Michael came on, then they started to, give the Grammys, more to the, black solo artists. But yeah, they didn't give it to Marvin Gaye, and God knows he deserved it. I mean, but it is what it is, right? But you see this Saturn Aries, man, the authority. He had issues with the father and his father's authority. He rebelled against it. He wasn't, he didn't want to do things the way his father wanted to. But yet he still wanted the approval of the mother and the father. It's really, it's very powerful when you get into the psychology of a human being, and then someone like an artist that's so creative, because, you could see with this chart that there was this back and forth pull. Just even 9th, 10th, 11th, and 11th house, there's just like this, and he was like, almost, you could say, married to sex and freedom and liberation, Aquarius, 8th house, and secrets. We don't know what Marvin was doing. We really don't, so you don't know if any of the rumors are bisexuality or the drug, you know what I mean? I mean, the 70s cocaine, I mean, I talked about with Richard Pryor, the experimenting, and that's how he got into, a lot of the sexual stuff through the drugs. And I'm not saying that people that are gay, lesbian, or trans, bisexual, it's only because of drugs. Do not, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that's what happened with Richard, and you don't know if that happened with Marvin Gaye, okay? But he was brilliant, and, he had the discipline in his career. He put out great music and was, he initiated and he accomplished and overcame. He battled, and he even said, and keyword, very competitive. Smokey Robinson said he would get up at like 5 a.m. in the morning and he wanted to go running in the snow and the ice in Motown and say, Smokey, come with me. And nobody else would do it because he was, oh my God, Marvin Gaye, he said he was training and running because he wanted to try out and play for the Detroit Lions. His father wouldn't let him play sports and all that stuff growing up, football, basketball, but Marvin loved it. And he wanted to try out for the Detroit Lions when he was in Motown. Now that's funny. But look at that. That is very much an Aries energy. This is explosive, right? You're seeing this 12 degrees, the sun and the Mercury, he would be very competitive and combative with the father. Now, he never put his hands on him until the day he died, April 1st. That's when his father shot him. And it's almost like he knew that when he crossed that line and beat his father up because of how his father was talking to his mother. But the sister said days leading up to it when Marvin was back at home because his mom was sick. And you see this kind of in conjunction, right, with the Virgo Aries with the sun and the moon. I mean, it's not exact in degrees, but it is just in the sign in the house. The mother and father were not, you know what I mean? There was just that divide. And the father had a lot of issues. I don't think he served any jail time for killing his son. But they said that all these people were coming to the house and girls were screaming for Marvin in the front yard, and they were coming at 2, 3 in the morning, and the father was getting so angry and the mother was upset. And, then the father was yelling at the mother, and then Marvin went and beat his father up. The father came out with a gun and shot him 3 times and killed him. God bless his soul. The 11th house. This was a gift from a past life, you guys. This Taurus, the classical. That's why he wanted to do the Frank Sinatra classical jazz like music. First off, be like a crooner. That's the Taurus South Node, right? It's the love for classical stuff, antiques. He was very classy. Taurus, the throat chakra, the singer, sensual, sexual energy, Uranus, right? Your soul seeking freedom and liberation in this lifetime to be free and join a group and sing and express himself. He had to do that. And that's why he, and also this shows him going to the Air Force. Same with the Sagittarius 6th house, but the Taurus, Uranus, and then being kicked out of the Air Force, right? I mean, this is literally flight. He was very stubborn though, right? Taurus South Node, but gifted and made that money. Scorpio North Node, he's about the money, but that also speaks about the bankruptcy. But the sexual energy. Ladies love Marvin Gaye. I can't front. He was a smooth brother, They said when he first came to Motown, he used to always like smoke a pipe and he had it on this hat all the time. So the ladies didn't realize how attractive or how cute he was. And then when he finally started to, record and get in the studio, all the women at Motown, and because, I forgot to tell you, when he was 21, right? So 24, 23, 22, 10th house, he dated Barry Gordy's sister, who was 36. Look at that, Saturn, the older woman, 21 to 36. So he dated Barry Gordy's sister, right? Career. So, that's right there. And this 12th house, your loss, your self-undoing, bed pleasures, sleeping, sex, fantasy dreams, subconscious, unconscious mind, hidden enemies, hidden talents, the Gemini series, Goddess of Harvest, things you may nurture and care about. And his artistic skills and abilities was his hidden talent. He was a musical genius, even though you saw it, but there was something greater that he still had in him. That if he could have got past the drug and see this Neptune Moon conjunction, it was hard. Virgo is the wheat and the medicine, but Neptune and Virgo, this generation was very much about being of service to humanity, the compassion and service to humanity. For him, it was through his music, right? The moon is the milk, but it's also it's your artistry, creativity in third house, your writing, communication, your skills, self-efforts, right? But this is also where you can see the alcohol and drug addiction damaging the physical body. Moon, Virgo. Okay. I wish I knew what his mother's sickness was, but that's when he came back home, and that's when his father killed him. There's so much in this chart. I mean, obviously, you can break it down forever, but even the Mars with the Chiron opposition, that's from dad whooping that butt. It's it was hard, and he got the brunt of it. The Neptune and Moon in the third house were really kind of opposing the Jupiter, and not as much the Lilith and Venus, but the Venus Lilith conjunction. I didn't talk about that. He was definitely right. So his tribe was the Pisces people, the creative artists, the spiritual people, in the house of beliefs and philosophies, right? But it was like this also represented the confusion of his father's teachings. How are you going to see your father cross-dressing, whooping your butt, making you strip naked, but he's a minister in a Pentecostal church? That's the Lilith, Jupiter, father's teachings, ninth house, if you ever seen it. Venus, Pisces. He was, right, his connection was to the mother, opposing the Virgo moon, but it's more the Jupiter. His teachings were more, I think in some ways he didn't understand how the mom, I think it kind of confused him, or the mother was confused about the husband, the cross-dressing and the abuse. And I think it really, it troubled and hurt Marvin. When you're seeing this Jupiter opposing that Neptune and Moon, he really wanted to rebel against his father, but he adored and, had this spiritual, intuitive connection with his mother. And look at this, he said God was doing What's Going On, that album. And he was very intuitive and really psychic with his creativity, his music. Third house, your skills, self-efforts. Moon, Neptune, music. I mean, he was brilliant, y'all. You wonder sometimes when you see some of these great people, how they were able to overcome those obstacles. And that's what the sun in the 10th house does, But you see, there was still a level of honor and respect because he feared, right? Look at this, the fear of his father and the rod and the discipline. Saturn, Aries, his father, and this also speaks to him being in the military, the Air Force, Saturn in the 10th house. But his father was the authority, the strict rule. And Aries, whew, oh yeah, he was getting that belt and whooping, and the Mars opposing. And you could look at the Mars, like I said, the Mars square and the sun. It all speaks to it. So, it was incredible. He gave us so much. So I just honor Marvin Gaye. I salute him and his family, and You know, Janice loved him to death, but that didn't last long. They got divorced in '79, so they were married for 2 years. And the last couple of years, he was just sexual healing, and then he did the NBA All-Star Game, a national anthem, which was the greatest one ever. That and Whitney Houston, and he just. I think he was spiritually tired. A lot of his friends said that he was already spiritually gone before his father killed him. He had turned everything over to the drugs, and he was just worn out and tired. And I think a lot really messed him up with the sudden death to Tammy Terrell, who he loved like a sister. Okay. So, that is definitely Mr. Marvin Gaye. Eric Taylor, Big E Astrology, breaking down this musical legend. I think when you really look at a birth chart, and I feel like every human should have their birth chart done. If I was God or president, I always say that, everybody would have a birth chart reading, but you can see with Marvin, the fuel for success with the Sun and Mercury and Aries in the 10th house, and the Mars and Capricorn going to Seago, climbing up the mountain, the cardinal earth sign initiating the fame. That's exactly what happened after he left and was kicked out of the 6th house Sagittarius Air Force. He found his way through singing the doo-wop and this and that to Motown, going against his father's wishes, and then got to that, 9th house. After he dated Virgo, his sister, eventually, I forgot what year he married Anna, but it was around, I think, the 24-ish, around sometime in there. And it's, back, I think, around the Ascendant, or 24 or 26. And they adopted Marvin Gaye III, okay, him and Anna. But that was a troubled marriage, heard it through the grapevine, and he was always worried if she was cheating on him when he was on tour or traveling and this and that. And God knows, maybe he was guilty because he was cheating on her, but, this was a musical genius. And he represented all humans at Venus and Pisces. He had love for all mankind. And his way of protest the Vietnam War and civil rights was through his music and what's going on, and his assessment of society and condition of Black people. It was poetry. It was Venus and Pisces. It was Neptune conjunct the moon. It was the brilliant artistry of Marvin Gaye, a true musical legend, a Motown icon, and the prince of soul and R&B music. I salute you, brother. I thank you from my heart. Love your music. Big fan forever. And God rest your soul and your family. And your music lives on forever. And it was my honor and pleasure to break down Marvin Gaye's astrological natal birth chart. Peace. Big E Astrology. If you want your birth chart done, tailoredtoyoucoaching@gmail.com. Hit me up. And my website's being updated now. Soon it's tailoredtoyoucoaching.com, but soon it'll be bigeastrology.com. But just email me directly, tailoredtoyoucoaching@gmail.com. Peace.